Good evening, traders. So we have 7 participants right now, including me. So we have Jomar, Lionel, Wency, Psyche, and Roger. So let's move on to our topic for today. So as I mentioned kanina, no, tinanong ni Wency, what's the topic for today? Our topic is actually, someone mentioned it from either from this group or from another group that I'm part of. So I'm keen to go back now. This is not the first time that we are going to discuss Elliott Wave. This is not the first webinar I made to discuss the Elliott wave as well. But I would like to make some changes on my previous presentation, do more in-depth analysis or explanation to what Elliott wave is all about. Because I think a lot of people are still a bit, what do I say it, confused on how to use it, on how to implement Elliott wave on their trading. And so I would like to answer some of the questions if ever you have some about it or some confusions that you might want some clarifications on. So that's what we are going to do today. So let's go and check the market first. We have a very interesting week, okay? Starting Friday, actually. Been doing this for the last, 3 days that the market has been falling, all right? A lot of the currency pairs are falling due to the interest rate changes announcement in the United States, making the US dollar very strong at the moment compared to others. And so most of the currency pairs that I'm following, like pound USD, for example, as you can see, the price has gone down quite considerably. Same thing for Euro USD. Anything that is paired with US are going lower. Okay. So you can see it's about 3 days for Euro that is has been falling for quite some time. And nothing is good with cryptocurrency as well, right? BTC. Let's see. Let's look at BTC futures. As you can see, there's a gap there for BTC futures. And yeah, it's been quite basically in discount right now. It's around $20,000 compared to its highest peak at around 72, 68, 70. So yeah, I mean, sobrang bagsak yung market, not only on the crypto but on other Asian currencies as well. So yeah, it's a very interesting market to trade, but you can still trade it. Just remove some of them. All right, so I'm back at pound USD. Okay, excuse me. So some interesting things that I'm going to discuss right now is how can we actually see, no? So in this kind of falling scenario, we call this time of market environment. We call this trending market. Trending, why? Because it is actually moving from one place to another, moving either higher or lower. This at this time, it is going lower. Na bumabagsak siya eh. Bumabagsak yung market. So this is what we call a trending market. That is versus a ranging market, right? Ranging market. A ranging market is when the price is, although it's going higher or lower, it's not that much compared to trending. And most of the time, you would see this sideways movement in the market. All right, sideways movement in the market. Just to give you an example, so here, in this area here, okay, that is from what October 2019 to April 2020. That's more than a year, right? We have this trending environment where the price is mostly going sideways. There are of course times where it's going higher and there are times it's going lower, but technically that is a sideways moving market. Okay, it's just zigzagging on a straight line. Okay, so I hope that is clear. So right now we are on a market. In this time of market behavior, normally we are going to see Elliott wave patterns. All right. So yun yung pag-uusapan natin. What is Elliott wave? Huh? Elliott wave is spelled with double L and double T. Elliott wave theory. So we'll talk about the pattern, right? We'll talk about the logic behind it and how to identification on the chart. And how can this really help us in our trading? All right. How can this really help us in trading? I think that is more important. So we'll try to answer all of this later. for today. And so let me know if you have any questions, if you are familiar with it. Can I see a show of hands? Sino dito yung may alam na about Elliott wave? May idea about Elliott wave, or perhaps you are already using Elliott wave in your trading? Who among you are already familiar with Elliott wave? Anyone? So si Zandro, yes. All right. So most of you guys are not familiar with Elliott wave. Who among you perhaps haven't used it yet, but have heard about Elliott wave? Or yeah, have heard about Elliott wave before this webinar? Sino na yung nakarinig about Elliott wave before this webinar? So sabi ni Wency, narinig niya na pero di pa niya ina-apply. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Wency. How about the rest? Sino na yung narinig na pero hindi pa na-apply or hindi pa alam talaga kung ano to? Anyone? Anyone? All right, other than Wency. So most of you guys, I would assume, right? I would assume that this is the first time that you heard about it. This is the first time that you're going to learn about it. So we'll make this very, very simple. So around what, 1930s, I think. So someone named Ralph Nelson Elliott. All right, he was a stock trader. Okay, he studied the chart, right? He studied the different numbers in the stock market, and he came up that he noticed that when the market is trending, when the market is moving from one level to another level, either that's a higher level or a lower level, it does that in five waves, in a succession of five waves. Ano ibig sabihin ng waves? So sabi niya, ang market nagtitrend siya in a wave. Price trends in five successive waves. Alright, ano ibig sabihin yan? Kapag daw ang market umaakyat, okay? If the market is going higher, hindi siya straight line na ganyan. So, hindi yan ganyan, no? So, from this area here, right? At kung aakit yung price dito sa area na to, hindi siya straight line. Ano daw? Sabi niya, it normally, well, actually, most of the time, it is a succession of five waves. So, that is first wave 1, wave 1. This is wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5. Okay? So this is 1. Okay? Wag ko na yan, mas mahirap. Basta that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright? So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, and 5. Alright? So ito yung tinatawag nating motive wave. Okay? Alright. So sabi ni Elliott, this 5 waves, ang tawag niya dito, motive wave. Motive waves. Alright? Ito yung laging nangyayari sa market. This is the smallest, no, smallest price action that you would be able to identify or observe in the market. It is always going to have these 5 waves. When the price is moving either higher or lower, pag lower naman, ganun din, no? Sa succession of 5 waves. Alright? Ganun din, no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are also called a motive wave if the prices is trending lower. After the 5 waves, the market will then expect, or we can expect the market to have some sort of weakness. Humihina siya, okay, hihina yung market, and therefore it will then create what Ralph Nelson Elliott calls a corrective wave. So may una pataas, and then after niya, meron siyang tinatawag na corrective wave. Gawin natin itong red. Okay? This one, ang sabi niya, this is going to be A, B, C. Alright, A, B, C. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then corrective wave, A, B, C. Okay, same thing kapag babagsak naman yung market, no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then A, B, C. Alright, ito daw yung pinakamaliit na price action na pwede mo mahanap sa market. Bakit ito mahalaga para sa atin as a trader? Now, in the market, if you have not heard about mm, Elliott wave theory, if you look at this, you would think, okay, the price is zigzagging in the market. But if I ask you the question, how many times that is zigzag, then you won't be able to answer it. Okay, but if you know about Elliott wave, then you can say, well, there should be 5 waves in there. All right, it is going to zigzag 5 times before you would find some sort of weakness in the market, and then it will move a little bit to the other direction, or it will correct. Okay, ang kagandahan kasi nito is now you have an idea of how long will the price last, how long will the trend last, or if no, or if the trend is about to expire. Yun yung kahalagahan nito. It gives us a good idea, or kahit you can call it a prediction, a predictive idea of if the price will actually continue on that direction or it's about to expire. The good thing about that is we always wanted to know, right? We always wanted to know, is a trend still a good trend to trade, right? To ride on, or we have to reverse our position because the trend is about to expire. Does that make any sense to anyone? I hope so, right? Because that gives us an edge in the market when we are trading. So when you see that the price is moving down like this, then right now we can tell, is this price still going lower, or is this going to go on a different direction now? That is the beauty of Elliott wave. Tanong ni Nick, sir, paano malaman pag Elliott wave, anong trend? Yes, we are going to talk about that. We are going to talk about. Wency, questions are where you can plot or start to plot Elliott wave. We are going to talk about that as well. So chill lang, guys. Chill lang. All right. So this is what the concept of Elliott wave. All right. We are going to apply it on the market and how to apply. Yun yung mga tinatanong nyo sa akin, that is already identification. All right. Nasa pattern pa lang tayo, guys. Nasa pattern pa lang. Chill lang. Chill. Pattern pa lang tayo. Ito yung pattern. All right. Punta tayo sa logic. Sa logic niya. Ito, lagay muna natin to. So we have corrective waves. All right. So this is the pattern. Okay, this is the pattern that we are looking for. Now, I would like to go to look at the well, actually, hindi mo tayo punta sa pattern. Punta mo tayo ulit sa yeah, well, you can say it's called the pattern. All right. So these are the pattern. We're good with that. Do you have any questions about the pattern? Okay, if you are okay with the pattern, all right, if you are okay with the pattern, please raise a hand so that we can continue. So Lionel says, okay, Wency, okay, Xander, okay. So this is clear, all right? Clear, clear. Thank you, guys. All right, so this is clear. Let's move on to the logic. Now, we are going to move away from this pattern a little bit and go back to a different topic, which is forces. Forces in the market. We will connect this in a bit. Pero let's talk about forces first. Forces. Balik tayo dun sa supply and demand. Right? Ano yung mga normally na sinasabi nilang forces in the market that provides movement in the market other than supply and demand? Sa SMC, ang tawag nito liquidity, yan. Like area liquidity, ano pa ba? Supply, ano yung support and resistance, right? Support and resistance. All right? Enthusiast dyan, you call that a gap, right? Ano pa? Maraming concept of what pushes the market higher or lower, eh, or what moves the market. Supply and demand. Other people would say smart money, right? Smart money, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever you want to call it, there is obviously some forces in the market that moves it, right? That moves the prices higher or lower. Okay, so we're going to talk about the different types of forces. We are not really talk about the different types of forces, but we will talk about how do you identify forces in the market, right? So for example, if the price is pushing or the market is pushing this price lower, right? That means that this force is good enough for one, right, to cancel out the forces moving here. 'Di ba? Yung una nakita niyo umakyat yung price dito. This is just an example guys, So the price is going higher, right? And then after that, the price has gone lower. So umuna umakyat yung price. After nun, bumagsak yung price. So ano ibig sabihin nun? Well, this movement here, obviously, is made by a force. Let's say it's called force A, okay? That has pushed the price higher. And so if now the price is going lower, there must be another existing force, right? Another existing force that canceled out the initial force A and become dominant in the market, pushing down the price lower. I hope that is obvious. Okay, whatever the force is, we're not going to talk about that idea in the market of what these forces are. Okay, but this is obvious that the price has gone lower, and therefore that might be a different force from force A, which is trying to push the price higher. So there might be force B, but that is more dominant than force A, pushing the price lower. Now, throughout the movement of this price, our expectation is there are no changes on force B. Puwede ba magkaroon ng changes dun sa force? Yes, of course, possibly. Kasi puwedeng biglang may pumasok na another force in the middle, right? Puwede may pumasok na another force in the middle that will change the behavior of the movement of the market. You always have to remember the assumption in technical analysis, which is called recurrence. And I think I mentioned this a few times already. All right? This is a technical analysis assumption that there is recurrence in the market. Then that, uy, sobra na ng isang R. Recurrence simply means that there's always going to the behavior or of the market is something that is constantly, what do you call this? Recurring, no? It is always recurring in the market. And because of that recurrence, okay, yung mga patterns na nakikita natin, nagkakaroon siya ng consistency. Okay? Let me give you an example of this. Obviously, okay na tayo dito. No? So, force A pushes, force B pushes. And then, sabi natin, no, in the middle of a certain movement, another force might actually go in. Right? Another force might actually go in. Now, we are okay with this. Let me talk about yung tinatawag nating consistency. And this is very important. What is consistency and how do you identify consistency? Let me ask you this. All right? So from this point, again, let me give you another example. Here. Let's look at this example here. Okay? That is a move down, right? That is a down trend. Okay? So from this point to this point, the price has moved lower. So that is a down trend. Now, let me ask you this. Let's say that I am going to divide this in 3 parts. All right? Let's say I have to divide this in 3 parts. This movement. For some reason, don't ask me why, but I just want to divide it in 3 parts. How do you think am I going to divide this? All right? How do you think I'm going to divide this? Well, I'm going to divide it like this. First, from this point to this point, up to this point. I'm sorry. Right? From this point to this point, I'm going to divide it. From this point to this point around here, I'm going to divide it. And then this point to the last one. Now, why? Sabi ko nga, no, ang ating kailangan gawin is to divide it in 3 for no apparent reason. I just want to divide it. We are going to divide it this way. Bakit? Because that is, for me, that is more consistent. So this movement here is very consistent. You have very long lines, the bars are almost the same. It's almost the same looking. And this is so different, right? The consistency of the movement here is so different from the consistency of the movement here. Because the movement here is like this. Ganyan yung consistency niya, no? Very steep, no? With very little retracement, right? If ever, halos nga wala eh. Isa lang yung halos retracement niya. So, very steep. Now, if you're going to compare this price structure here, this price movement to the price movement here, this is a little bit different. Kasi ang movement niya is more on, it's a more sloping compared to this. And the price is more of, okay, ganyan siya, no? May mataas, may maliit, may mataas, may maliit na retracement. So, ganyan yung movement niya, okay? Bago siya bumagsak. Alright, so this movement is different from this movement. The consistency of this movement is different from the consistency of this movement here. And then, this is also different, okay? Because this time, it's no longer trending. It's more of going sideways. Why? This is so different. If you're going to plot this a little bit, you're going to see that the price, right, has this kind of consistency. It's so different from those other two. Does that make sense to everyone when we talk about consistency? Okay. So price movement does have consistency. Okay. So this kind of consistency is evident in all types of movement. All right. So we are not talking about the pattern alone. We are talking about the consistency of the price movement. Same thing if we look for this, for example, here, right? This behavior obviously has a different consistency from this behavior, right? We tend to see all of this kind of consistency a lot of times. Kaya nga may ibang traders, no, may ibang coaches, ang tinuturo nila is para ano, high momentum, low momentum movement. Nagsasabi nila na minsan ang price daw straight, no? Straight. Pero minsan ang price medyo sideways. May ganyan magturo eh. Tapos may iba naman ang price nila is side. Here's how I would like to teach this. No, we are talking about the consistency of the price. So you will always see difference in that kind of consistency. And as you can see, no, if even the price is zigzagging, right, zigzagging motion, they tend to zigzag with still with consistency. Tulad nito, no, the price has gone higher, then created a smaller retracement, then it did it again higher, and then created a smaller retracement. Alright, parang it always does that. Same thing dito, no? Price gone up here, went lower, gone up almost same level, got lower, gone up same level, then got lower. So parang ang movement nito pare-parehong ganyan, pero palalim ng palalim yung kanilang run, no? Price move here, retracement 'yan, 'di ba? Nag-run, bumagsak, nag-retrace ulit, pero hanggang dito lang yung kanyang run, nag-retrace ulit, same level, bumagsak, mas malaki, nag-retrace ulit, almost the same level, recurrence. Okay? Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So are we clear with consistency? That you would find consistency in the market? Or would you like, let me do another example for you guys, okay? Let me do another example for you guys. So for example, this one, this is very consistent, no? Itong market na to. Itong movement na to, I would say that is very consistent. Okay? Kasi talagang halos pare-pareho yung movement niya, pare-pareho laki ng mga bars niya. Okay? Compare that to, let's say, this area here. Okay? That has a different consistency from this. There's no such thing as this is a consistency A, consistency B. Walang ganun na. We are just looking at how the price is moving. and how consistent they are with that price movement. Let me give you another example. Okay, so this is a different one. All right. So here we have this movement here that I would consider very consistent, right? Price is just going smoothly, going lower. And then after that, something has changed and price beginning to start making more noise, no more retracement, deeper retracement in the market. So that has a different flavor, kumbaga, different consistency. This one has a different consistency as well. Okay. And obviously this one has a different consistency as the previous one. All right? So you can actually, kumbaga, pwede mong hati-hatiin ng isang trend based on their consistency. Okay? Now, why am I talking about consistency? And why about forces? Just to give you another analogy. If you are going to put, let's say if you have a bucket of water, right? Let's say you have a bucket of water and it's clear, walang gumagalaw, hindi gumagalaw yung water, and you put a finger in the middle of it, right? So let's say there's this bucket of water, right? So there's water inside the bucket, and you put a finger in the middle, right? You just pressed on it in the middle. What will happen? It will create ripples in the water, right? And that ripple, if you just put your finger in and move it away, it will create a very consistent ripple all throughout, right? Moving from the center outside. That is going to be very consistent. Okay? But what if you put a finger in and then try to move a little bit of your finger as well? Pagpasok mo, inilagay mo yung finger mo, ginalaw-galaw mo siya, what will happen? It will have a different consistency from the previous movement that you did. And that is what I would consider forces are. Parang ganun yung forces para sa akin, no? A different force will give you a different type of signature move, kumbaga. All right? So a difference in forces will give you different consistency in the market. Okay? So balik tayo ngayon doon sa waves. All right? So okay na tayo dun sa forces ha, and how the forces would give you different consistency of the price movement. So why is this important? Now a lot of people who are trying to learn Elliott wave, they're having a hard time with understanding this. This is a pattern, this is a pattern, this is a pattern. So what the beginner would do is look for 5 waves in the market here, and they are not going to see it, right? They are not really going to see it because the market will not give you 5 straight waves, 5 straight price action like this, and then 3 price action after, right? The market will not give you that. Saan mo hanapin yan dyan, right? The market will rarely give you a movement as clean as this. Okay? So, how do you do this? Sabi natin, this is the pattern of the movement, pero ang tawag ni Ralph Nelson Elliott, these are waves. Hindi niya sinabing trends, right? Sabi niya, waves. Does that make sense? I hope that is clear. Ralph Nelson Elliott says, these are waves, not trend. Balik ngayon, keep in mind yung ating analogy about the bucket of water. Okay? We are talking about waves, not trends. So when we are talking about that, no, when we are talking about that, we have to think about the consistency of the price movement and the forces in there that created it. When we're talking about Elliott wave, this is how I would like to explain this, right? Yes, there is still going to be 5 waves, but do not expect the market to give you straight lines. All right, it will not do that. Instead, always think of these waves as price action that is very consistent with the forces that created it. So if you have 5 waves, meaning there should also be 5 forces creating this wave going higher. So that means if you are going to look at an example here, yung example natin kanina, tanggalin natin 'to. Asan ba yung example natin kanina? Ito pala. Ito ba yun? Ito. Sorry. Alright. So in this example, right, we have one, two, three pushes down. Alright, sabi natin Elliott wave would have five, right? Pero two of them are actually retracement, right? So we have three pushes actually down and two pushes as the retracement. Alright, but later you would notice that minsan hindi yan retracement, minsan sideways movement siyang ganyan. Pero we would consider that as wave 2, right? So in this case, this is an Elliott wave. It is giving you an Elliott wave pattern wherein there is a force that pushed down the price. All right. Something has changed. All right. The price has actually gone sideways here. It is very small, but that small movement there gave way to a different consistency in the market. So we are assuming that different forces just came in to the market. So this is, let's say, force A, and then something has changed with that initial force. Maybe there is another forces, perhaps additional buyers and sellers in the market, whatever you want to call it, additional smart money that changed the consistency of the price and has pushed it lower. That would be considered as your wave 3. All right, that's wave 3. After that, the price has gone higher. Okay, the price gone higher, and then something has changed, and then it created a different consistency that is your wave 5. All right, and then after that, price correct. So even though it doesn't make sense to a lot of, especially if you already have a good understanding of Elliott wave, but are identifying it differently, then this will not work for you, right? You would say that that's not Elliott wave, but it is Elliott wave. Because we are talking about waves and not patterns. If you're going to look at patterns of 5 waves like this, you are going to rarely see that. Okay? And that is also, I personally believe that looking at patterns that way is the wrong way of identifying the forces in the market. Okay? Let me give you another example. This, for example, is a movement down, right? Can you see the Elliott wave in here? I can. Why? I can identify, I'm trying to look at the consistency of the price movement from this area here that is very consistent as a whole, as a whole. And this is also has a very consistent behavior. This movement of creating downward movement and then sideways. That is very consistent for me. And so you have this pattern in the middle. So that is for me Elliott wave. So if I'm going to plot that with Elliott wave, this is going to be my plot. So that is 5 waves. Does that make sense? Now, there will be a lot of times wherein now this kind of identification, by the way, is something difficult to teach because it's not something that is black and white. You know, it's all about how much experience you have in looking at a chart and trying to figure out this kind of forces. And I'm going to be honest with you, there are times wherein I just don't know if there's an Elliott wave or not. And the thing is, Elliott wave doesn't happen all the time, or it's not that obvious all the time. But I'm sure that there will always be a part of it that would that would be consistent with the Elliott wave theory. For example, in this case, you can figure this out if there is an Elliott wave. I think there is, but it's really hard to say. It's really hard to tell where the Elliott wave here is. Okay, I can see some consistency in this area, right? Here in this area as well, pero not much, right? So Kapag walang Elliott wave and I would like to use Elliott wave in trading, then I don't trade. As simple as that. Pero when you have, pero most of the time, I'm going to tell you, most of the time, you are going to see Elliott wave on a chart. Most of the time. Like siguro 70%, you would find Elliott wave. It's just easier to identify an Elliott wave. It is if it's very obvious, obviously, right? So for example, this one is very obvious. You see this movement, this pattern, down, retracement, down, bigger retracement, down, and that is very obvious that that is an Elliott wave. Okay, this movement here going higher has gone down here. This is also consistent of Elliott wave, right? Very consistent with Elliott wave. Is there an Elliott wave in here in this pattern? Yes, there is, right? There is. Ito yung example natin nata kanina eh. Oo, ito nga yun. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is very consistent. So let's talk about, do you have any questions about that? Yung consistency? Any questions? O napapaisip na ba kayo? Yes, go ahead, Zandro.
Yan, sige coach. Kasi pina-practice ko siya
Mm.
yung paghanap ng Elliott wave ano. So, I don't know kung tama yung ginagawa ko para ma-identify ko siya.
Mhm.
So, para masabi ko na Elliott wave kasi may start tapos may end ano, yung
Yeah.
ng wave. Tapos yung start at end na yon, kino-consider ko for me coach kung paano ko siya i-identify. For me, galing siya ng major reversal or major change.
Mhm.
Yung from 'di ba galing siya ng inconsistency tas biglang nagbago, consider ko yun na start.
Okay.
Tapos magiging consistent wave siya tapos at the end ng wave niya may major change ulit.
Yes.
So parang yung pinakita mo kanina galing siya ng trending tas biglang nagpalit siya. So I would consider that wave 1 na yon.
Mhm.
Tas
Okay.
ite-trace ko na siya hanggang pagdating sa dulo, hangga't hindi siya reversal ng major reversal, hindi pa yun natatapos.
Okay.
So,
Pwede. Pwede.
gano'n ko siya paano hanapin yung Elliott wave.
That is a good start, Zandro. Kasi in most cases, you will always find some sort of reversal, some sort of
Mm.
direction change sa dulo at saka sa unahan, sa start ng Elliott wave. Because that is the point of Elliott wave. Eh. We are talking about forces nga, di ba? We are talking about forces. And so that is a good start. But eventually, you encounter, ba? Just to give you a good example. Kasi ito nag-change eh. You would see some movement na down talaga. For example, talagang downtrend and it will create una Elliott wave, right? Tapos after niyan gagawa siya ng correction. It's still downtrend. Tapos itutuloy niya yung Elliott wave. So pwede 'yon. Okay, kasi ang Elliott wave siguro hindi ko pa nababanggit pala no. Elliott wave is fractal. All right? Ano ibig sabihin ng fractal? Let's say this is your Elliott wave. Okay, let's say that is your Elliott wave on, let's say on the daily, no, daily nakita ka Elliott wave. If you're going to go to the 4 hour or the 1 hour, this smaller behavior here is also technically Elliott wave din yan. Okay? So, fractal yan. And then, pag pumunta ka sa 5 minute, 1 minute, this wave here, okay, will be composed of smaller Elliott wave. So, you will always find that kind of behavior in the market. Okay, so fractal siya. So, although tama rin naman si Zandro 'no, most of the time you would see some sort of changes, some sort of direction change on the top and the bottom, and most of the time you are going to see that. Most of the time, you're going that. But don't be confused kapag nagkaroon kayo ng encounter wherein you would see talagang downtrend pero gumagawa ng ilang beses na Elliott wave. That can happen as well. Alright, but that's a good thing, Zandro, that you're looking at the change of direction because for me, I also do that, no? I always have my EMA because that gives me a sense of what the market is, what is the direction of the market. And I use that as a way to identify a trend. So should be, for me, I'm going to identify an Elliott based on the trends. So yun, that's a good way of putting it. Thank you, Zandro. All right, let's go back. Dun tayo sa logic. Alright, pero medyo na ano natin yung identification, eh. Doon na tayo muna sa logic. What's the logic of Elliott wave? Magbubura lang ako ng iba dito. Okay, let's look for an example. Sige, let's look for this example. Let's use this example here. So, obviously naman yung kung nasaan yung Elliott, guys, ha. Yan yung Elliott natin. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright? Clear kung saan yung Elliott, ha. Let's talk about logic. All right. As you can see now, before the market created this movement down and shown as an Elliott wave pattern, the market has gone sideways. All right, the market has gone sideways. It's creating this pendant. Okay. And then after nyan, price has gone out. All right, nag-zigzag motion siya. Okay. Of course, this pendant will also have forces creating it as well. Right. So the market is coming from this behavior of sideways movement. All right, price is going sideways and it just got out of that pattern, right? So meaning may mga forces na papasok. So may pumasok na force around this area. The price went lower. May pumasok na force dito sa area na to that pushed the price higher. All right, push the price higher. Okay, now this is where the price is coming from. And then once it hits this area here, another force came in. Another force came in. And let's say that is force A. Okay? Now think about this for a moment. Okay? The pound USD or kahit buong Forex na lang para mas clear, no? The entire Forex market's valuation, daily valuation is around 6.5 trillion US dollars per day. That's the value of the number of transactions that is happening daily on the Forex market. Even if you're talking about pound USD, actually pound USD is a very popular market to be traded. A lot of people trade this. So I don't know the exact figure, but I'm assuming it will be trillions or billions of US dollars changing hands or doing transaction in pound USD alone. Billions. All right. Now think about this for a moment. For you to change or move the market, that means you need to have billions as well. Sa tingin mo magbabago yung price ng market kasi nagpasok ka ng $20 mo? 'Di ba hindi? Magbabago ba yung presyo? Magbabago ba yung supply and demand of the market because you put in your $20 order? Of course not. It will barely if it will ever be, move at all with a $20 trading account, with a $20 trade. So when are we going to see this movement? Now remember this forces that we are talking about. We're talking about supply and demand. We're talking about smart money. We're talking about liquidity. You need to have a lot of liquidity. You need to have smart money that has a lot of money, and you need to have a lot of sellers for supply and demand. To actually move the price. So if there is a force pushing this higher, then the force that can cancel that movement, that can cancel that force should have a bigger amount of money. So we are saying that force A is more dominant than whatever the force is here. So meaning, who can actually, all right, who can actually change the direction of the market? Is it us, the retail traders? No. Some people would call them big boys. Some people would call it smart money, right? People would call it institutions. We are talking about exactly the same thing. All right. So you need to be an institution, a bank, perhaps group of banks, group of individuals that has a lot of money to push the price lower. All right. The price can only go lower if there is no demand but a lot of supply in the market here, right? So this force A is started the Elliott wave pattern. And therefore, we call this pattern. So the movement that resulted from force A going into the market is wave 1. All right. I call this I call this leg, or I call this wave, institutional wave. That is my own way of naming it. No, I don't think you would see that in other Elliott wave books or whatever. I just call it that way because I believe that an Elliott wave is a trending wave, as I mentioned earlier. Yun din yung sinabi ni Ralph Nelson Elliott. It is a trend move, right? And in a trending move, that means the price is going higher or lower. There is a change in direction. And so for me, if you can change the direction of the market, you need to have a lot of money to do that. And the only way you can do that is if you are an institution. If you are a bank, if you have big money, or you might be a group of bank that just happen to time the market at the same time, but whatever you want to call it, there is a lot of money behind the first leg of the Elliott wave, or the first wave of the Elliott wave. I call that institutional wave. Alright, bakit institution? Sabi nga na kasi hindi naman gagalaw yung market kung walang malaking pera behind it. Right? Okay, next. After that, price has gone down lower. If it has gone down, let's say 1 hour, 4 hours, na ilang beses yan, we are on the daily, so that means from July up until March. Alright, 6 months, 3 months na bumabagsak yung price. 2015 to. Right? 2015 bumabagsak yung price. Sa tingin niyo ilang milyong traders ang nakakakita ng movement na yan, 'di ba? Kasi ang tagal eh, 3 buwan na bumabagsak yung price. Ilang traders ang nakakita niyan? Ilan ba yung sumisilip? Ilan sa atin ang sumisilip sa kanilang chart more than once a day? Raise of hand. Sino sa inyo ang tumitingin sa chart more than once a day? More than 5 times a day. Sino tumitingin sa inyo sa chart more than 5 times a day? Chart more than 5 times a day. Alright. So yeah, 'di ba? Oh, si Jomar din, right? Tayo tingin tayo ng actually may mga iba nga every hindi mapakali lalo na kapag may trade, eh, maya-maya nakatingin sa chart. Si Patrick din daw, right? So what's my point here? If this has been going on for the last 3 months, right? I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of traders have seen this movement. So ano mangyayari? Nakita na, uy, bumabagsak yung market, right? Pag medyo umangat lang yan, papasok ako ng trade, 'di ba? Gano'n yung isipin. Bakit? Bumabagsak eh. You're going to ride the trend, right? Go with the flow. Kasi ang flow ngayon is pabagsak. So yes, magse-sell ako, magkaroon ako ng konting opportunity. So mapapansin niyo 'no, the price is moving, moving down, moving down, moving down. Kapag nagkakaroon ng chances ang price na umakyat ng konti, ang laki ng bulusok 'no, ang laki ng bulusok pababa. So you can see that the price that people are looking at this na makikita mo nagkakaroon na ng changes of behavior dito ng konti. Pero after nun, the price has gone lower, bumagsak talaga siya, and then biglang umakyat. So, kapag umakyat ang market, that means yung mga naka-enter dito, right, nakapasok ng let's say sell order nila, they are now making profit. They are taking out their profit na from the market. And so, syempre, kung nag-sell sila dito, no, syempre, ibabalik nila sa market, nagkakaroon ulit tayo ng demand, right? So, kung kumukonti yung seller, right, dumadami ulit ang buyers. Yun lang naman yung kasimple eh. So they are taking profit, they are closing their position, so the price is going, you are seeing the price doing a retracement. Okay? So same thing din naman 'yan sa mga nagse-sell ng maaga 'no, same thing. So yung mga nakapasok ng on time, kumita, they are already closing their position. Yung mga yung mga naman pumasok ng medyo late 'no, nakita nila umaangat, they might be closing their position as well, right? But eventually the price is still going, this is still going strong on the downside. And when the market saw that, okay, medyo nag-flatten, uy, sabihin nila, "Ay hindi pa tapos. Hindi pa tapos, hindi pa 'yan magche-change ng direction, there might still be a chance to go lower." And so yung mga nagtatangka na pumasok, papasok sila ulit. Pero this time, mas malaki yung momentum 'no, mas malaki yung behavior change in the market, okey? Sabi nila, wave 3 is not the shortest. Yun yung isa sa mga, rules natin 'no, when we are looking at Elliott wave. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5. Wave 3 will never be the shortest wave, okay? This will never be the shortest wave. We are not saying this is the longest, we are just saying that it will never be the shortest, okay? So ibig sabihin mahaba siya. Mahaba siya, it can be as long as wave 1, it can be longer than wave 1, right? Basta hindi siya yung shortest wave. Bakit? Kasi yung mga gustong pumasok, nandito na. Siyempre yung institutional traders natin, papasok din diyan. Papasok din yan din diyan. Okay? Kasi that is still an opportunity. So you have institution and then you have retail traders as well coming in. All right? So this movement is what we call momentum. All right? May momentum na 'to. So yung mga magagaling mag-trade 'no, yung medyo may alam na, makikita nila if this is an institutional move, okay? The price has gone a little bit higher, that is premium 'no, ibig sabihin makakamura sila diyan. That's why they're going to enter that, and that would create this move, alright? That would create this move. Do you get it now? So ibig sabihin dumadami kasi yung tao na nakakakita dun sa movement, and so dumadami yung nagte-trade on the same direction, okay? And then after niyan, there will be some sort of retracement. Ngayon, by this time 'no, nakailang buwan na ito, from siguro 2015, eh. So 3 years na pabagsak yung market. By this time, lahat ng traders alam na, ay bumabagsak ang pound USD, okay? So konting angat lang ng konting ganyan, magkaroon lang ng chance ang market, pumasok, dadami yung sellers, sobrang bagsak ngayon ng market. Why? Because everyone knows that no one is buying pound USD anymore. Everyone's selling. Lahat na. So ibig sabihin kada isang leg niyan, padami ng padami ang nagte-trade on the same direction. That's why Elliott wave is working that way. That is the logic of Elliott wave. Someone has to start it, create the pattern, and then the pattern will be identified by people who knows how to identify patterns, and they will come in eventually to the market once they have an opportunity. And once the market has seen these two na pabagsak na 'no, kahit yung mga hindi magagaling mag-trade ay hindi na talaga ba-buy kasi obvious naman pabagsak na 'yan, eh. So lahat ngayon 'no, gagatasan yung pound USD. That's why babagsak na siya. Does that make sense? That is the logic of Elliott wave. You have an institutional move, you have momentum moves as well. All right? Does that make sense to everyone? Okay? Now, even on a smaller scale, even if you go to the 5-minute chart, Elliott wave happens as well. Right? For example, this. 5-minute tayo guys ha. That's your Elliott wave. Tanggalin ko para mas madali niyo makita. Price has gone lower. Alright? Dito ang kanyang movement is more of a sideways market. Pero from this point to this point is the lowest and the highest point of that movement. So that is kaya ginawa ko siyang paganon. Tinignan ko yung highest and lowest. Pero technically sideways yan ha. Pero that's the highest. And then the next move is from this point to this point. Ito yung lowest niya eh. All right, and then the price has gone sideways technically, pero that is the lowest point to the highest point here, and then fifth wave will be. All right, very clear, guys, ha? So that is very obvious. Now, this is 5 minutes. So sa 5 minutes, sir, meron gumagana yung Elliott? Yes, gagana yung Elliott sa 5 minutes. Alright? It doesn't matter. Kahit 1 minute, gagana pa rin yan. Although there will be some noises, pero gumagana ang Elliott wave. You have to remember exactly the same thing. It doesn't need, the market is always constantly monitored by people who are trading like scalpers. Hindi yan konti. Maraming scalpers sa mundo. At other than that, ngayon, no, meron tayong tinatawag na ang tawag dito? High frequency trading. Mga robots, naka-monitor din yan. Okay? So, imposible na ang market ay walang taong nakatingin. Laging meron. Okay? So, that's why the Elliott wave will always be effective because people will see trends and they were going to try to follow the trend. All right? When you see a trend going lower, you're going to try to sell, sell, sell. The more people, the longer it is, the more people will go in to the trade to ride the trend even on the 1 minute. Gagana siya. Okay? Meron din nagsasabi din no na ang mga institutional traders dahil nga malalaki ang pera niyan, no, hindi yan basta-basta nagte-trade ng isang trade lang. So for example, if tayong mga retail trader, meron tayo let's say $1,000 na gusto nating i-trade, kahit isang trade lang 'yan, kakagatin agad ng market 'yan kasi 6.5 trillion US dollar transaction. Siyempre, there will always be buyers or sellers against you. 1,000 or 50,000 pesos, maliit na bagay lang 'yan, no? Maliit na bagay lang 'yan sa Forex. Okay, yun, huwag kayong kabahan kung sabihin meron ako natawa ako minsan. Hindi ko naman sinasadya natawa ako, bigla ko lang nabasa, nagbabasa ako ng mga comments sa isang Forex trading group, no, na kilala. May nagtanong do'n, may nag-comment na magmo-move daw ba agad yung market 'pag nagpasok siya ng malaking halaga, at may nagtanong na kung magkano ba ang halagang ipapasok niya sa trade. Yun nga, $1,000 daw. Magmo-move daw ba ang market? Natawa ako bigla. Of course, it won't. It won't change the market because of your $1,000. The market is way too big for that. No? A lot of people think then no na may manipulation, may nagmo-move sa market. I used to think about that, yung mga manipulation, ganyan ganyan. Although it does happen, no. Some people think that manipulation is meant for them. No, it's not meant for you. All right? Kasi your money is not big enough for this whales, kung tawagin natin, yung mga institution to target you. Remember, they have billions of dollars because they can move the market. That means they have a lot of money. They are not going to target a retail trader that has a $20 trade, right? It does make sense that there is those kind of behavior in the market, but most of the time, if not all the time, they are targeting another institution as well, not you. Okay? Another institution siguro yung tina-target nila sa manipulation nila, not you. Okay? So yun lang. If we are real trader yung 1,000, mabilis kagatin yan, meaning the execution of that is 0.01 seconds. Mabilis lang, nakakagatin agad yan, papasok agad yan, mag-execute agad yan. Institutions are different. Institutions are different. Why? Sa institutions kasi, we're talking about billions, millions. Alright? Kaya actually, kahit millions nga, madali lang eh. Billions, no? Sa pag billion ang gusto mong i-trade, gusto mong i-sell, you're not going to trade it in just one trade alone. Why? Kasi matagal yan kagatin ng market. Okay? Kapag ganyan kalaki yung pera mo, matagal ang execution yan. Remember, if you're going to put a sell order, in this scenario, naglagay ka ng sell order dito sa taas, right? That worth 1 billion, meaning the market has to come up with a total number of buyers that has 1 million transactions as well, right? Kasi kailangan kung meron kang 1 billion sell trade, dapat magkaroon ka ng kamatch na 1 1 billion by trade as well, no? Hindi naman kailangan isang tao pero kahit basta maramihan, pero malaking pera pa rin 'yon. Alright? So what normally institutions do, they actually put their orders in tranche. Alright? May tranche silang tinatawag. O kumbaga ang tawag natin gibbs sa Tagalog. Okey, installment. Ini-installment nila 'yan. So yung 1 billion nila 'yan, hati-hatiin nila sa maraming trades 'no, dahan-dahan nilang pinupuno yung market. Kasi kada isang pasok nila nakikita nila bumabagsak yung market kasi nga malaki yung pera nila, eh. So dinadahan-dahan nila 'yan para yung market hindi biglang babagsak. Kasi 'pag biglang bumagsak 'yan dahil nagpasok sila ng 1 billion at kumagat, bagsak agad yung pera. Hindi gano'n 'yon. So, kasi ang next nun, eh, tatalo sila 'no? Kasi they want to buy more, kaya lang bumagsak na yung presyo, okey? So, what do they have to do, dadahan-dahan nila para 'pag umakyat ng konti, okey, se-sell ulit sila. Umakyat ng konti, se-sell ulit sila. Okey, gano'n 'yon para naa-average nila kung magkano yung price na binibili nila or sine-sell nila. Okey, kasi kapag naglagay sila agad, bumagsak yung price, eh, di ano, lalayo na ng agwat nung una nilang order dun sa pangalawa nilang order. Ang layo na agad ng diperensiya. So, sabi ng iba 'no, nagta-tranche 'yan. And I believe that as well, nagta-tranche. And this tranche is very obvious dun sa waves natin. Alright? That's the logic. Question about that, guys? Question? Logic of Elliott wave? No question? So, kung walang question, raise of hand. Are we going to continue with how this can help us and how to trade this? Raise of hand. Are we going to continue on how to trade Elliott wave? Wency says yes. Xander says yes. Alright. Anyone else? Dalawa lang yung nag-raise of hand. How about the rest? Nakakapag-follow pa ba kayo, guys? Mary Ann says yes as well. Thank you, Mary Ann. How about the rest? So, hopefully nakakapag-follow pa kayo, guys, ha? Okay. Alright, next. How do you trade this? I'm going to be honest with you. Trading Elliott is a hit and miss sometimes. Why? Kasi sabi nga natin, hindi siya pattern. Right? Hindi siya pattern. Pero we have no choice. We have to look for patterns anyways if we are going to trade putting buy and sell orders. So we have to look for a pattern. So how am I going to trade this? First of all, dito na papasok yung ating trend lines. Trading Elliott. Unang-una natin kailangan malaman, alright, when we are trading Elliott, is one, we need to use some tools. Ano yung tools na ginagamit ko madalas? This is just for me, but I love to trade with using trend lines. Right? Hindi ako mahilig sa mga indicators, but you can. If you are into indicators that can look for if you have oscillators or you have trend indicators that can focus on the trend of the market, you can use that. EMA is one of them. If you want to use Fibonacci, you can also use not Bollinger Band. No? Pwede ka rin mag-Bollinger Band if you want. Mga oscillators na pwede mong gamitin, medyo marami. Actually, lahat ng oscillators, they're always looking for trend changes. Eh. So, you can use almost any kind of oscillators. MACD, if you are into RSI, ano pa ba? ATR as well, if you are into ATR, average true range, you can do that. Alligators, pwede. So, almost all oscillators can help you trade the Elliott wave. Huwag mo lang masyadong damihan because that will paralyze you. Kasi sabi ka natin, over analysis paralyzes. So ako, trend lines lang. So sabi natin, no, movement is consistent. So there should be a possible trend line to this. So if this is wave 1, ang madalas pala wave 1, bihirang-bihira mo matatrade yan. Except if you're going to use supply and demand. No? But we're not going to talk about supply and demand right now. We're going to use Elliott wave. So sa Elliott wave, no choice ka, you have to trade after wave 1. Alright? Kasi yung wave 1, hindi yan evident hangga't hindi lumalabas yung wave 2. Kumbaga hindi mo siya ma-identify hangga't hindi lumalabas yung wave 2. Okay? So, wave 1 is after the fact. You can identify it after the fact that is already wave 2. Pero, once you have wave 1, you can say, oh, that's wave 1, and then nagre-retrace. Pababa na siya. So, that can be wave 2. You can say that, no? you can trade na from wave 2 up to wave 5. Yun yung kagandahan nun. Because once you identify and you believe that this is going to exhibit patterns of Elliott wave, meaning you know that even though nagre-retrace siya like this, let me just use the replay instead. Okay? You know na kahit ganyan yung itsura niya, alam mong hindi yan lilipad pataas. Bakit? Kasi alam mo na if prices are moving, there should be some sort of Elliott wave pattern. Meaning, kung wave 1 'to at gumagawa pa lang siya ng wave 2, meaning meron pang wave 3, meron pang wave 4, meron pang wave 5 sa ibaba. Okay, gano'n 'yon. That's a good thing about Elliott wave. You can be more, kumbaga, more confident that this price will continue to go lower. How do we identify this now? First, we identify the trend, no? We can identify wave 1 like this, which is the trend line of the first wave, okay? This is the wave 1, no? Hindi naman natin i-trade yan, eh, pero pinalat lang natin just so we can see it on the screen, alright? And then we have wave 2. Now, why do we know this is wave 2? And this is my beginner's guide to identifying waves. I use trend lines to identify waves, meaning if there's a break of the trend line, that is a possibility of wave 2 or the next succeeding wave is already starting and the previous wave is already ended. Meaning if this is wave 1 and now we are seeing evidence that the price has broken the trend and has retested and has gone higher, then that means this is already wave 2 because this movement has already broken the first wave. Very consistent, no? Very consistent wave up until this point here where it has broken it, retested, and gone higher. Now we can then plot this. All right? If you are into reverse trading, all right, retracement trading, you can trade this to buy if you wanted to. Kasi alam mo aakyat 'to, eh. Pero ako kasi hindi ako mahilig sa gano'ng klaseng strategy. Pero since we are talking about, wave 2, you can, 'no? If you can plot na to enter this, right? Kasi alam mo nag-aano siya, gumagawa na siya ng retracement higher, right? You can plot na, 'no, with this. So perhaps you want to use your concept of supply and demand, right? So that is your demand going higher. You can do that na. So you should be able to trade na with this. Okay? Most of the time what I would do, so you can ride the wave as I have said, kapag gumagawa na or ongoing na yung wave, you can ride it like just like this na magbabay ka to go higher and the price would go higher, right? Right? Pero eventually that wave will end as well, right? Mag-e-end din yung wave na yan. So that is a break. Obviously, that's already a break. Magkakaroon ng retest. Right. So normally, what I would do is, kapag ako ang nagte-trade hindi ako mahilig mag-ride ng wave kapag nangyayari na siya. I love to time the next wave. So kung wave 3 na 'to, 'no, kakatapos lang ng correction niya, this is the best time for me to enter, 'no. So I'm going to look for a sell opportunity so that I can ride the entire wave 3. So 'yon. So how do you enter this, 'no? That depends on you. It's not a strategy by itself. It is a tool to help you understand where the price might eventually go in the future. All right? And so if you have Elliott wave and you believe this is wave 2, right? You can now use your other strategy, your entry strategy to enter this wherever you want to. Okay, so if you are into asset supply and demand, you can plot your your supplies, right? Or if you are into SME, you can SMC, you can plot your POI, your FVG, whatever you want to call it. Okay? Pero you can enter na after it. Normally I would enter with supply and demand, obviously. No? I'm going to enter the market, put my stop loss, whatever, right? And then I'm going to try to ride the wave. Now, minsan, hindi laging tama ang Elliott wave. Kasi hindi nga siya pattern eh. So although we are looking at trend lines right now, possibly na magtuloy pa 'to pataas kasi hindi pa tapos talaga yung wave, okay? Pero ang ginagawa natin, we are taking chances. We are taking chances na babagsak na talaga kasi nagkaroon na ng break ng structure break 'no. So let's see if this is going to go lower or aakyat pa. Nakalimutan ko na yung itsura niya kanina. This is ano, eh, this is the replay lang. So umakyat pa, ayun. So bumagsak na nga talaga siya. So kung tinrade mo 'yan, panalo ka, okey? Okey? So 'pag ganyan ay umakyat, okey? So if you entered the wave 3, I do suggest 'no, para hindi masayang yung analysis mo, make sure that you're going to ride the entire wave 3. Ang kagandahan nito, sabi natin kanina ano, wave 3 will be one of the longest 'no. It will never be the shortest wave kasi. So it will be one of the longest wave. So it can be as big as wave 1 or wave 2 obviously or higher. Ang shortest natin right now is wave 2 compared mo sa wave 1, bakit? Wave 2 is only from this point to this point. Ito lang yung kanyang ano, measurement, right? Siyempre mas malaki yung wave 1, obviously. Sabi natin wave 3 will never be the shortest. So ibig sabihin mas malaki siya dito. So kung ipa-plot natin 'to dito, ang take profit natin dapat dito or more than that. Ang take profit natin is more than this area here. Yun yung kagandahan niya. Alam natin kung kailan tayo magte-take profit. Okay? So, it should be longer than this area. Bilisan natin ng konti. Kasi overtime na tayo. Okay. So pag ganyan, it's up to you, no? Kung ano yung klase ng target na gusto mo. Alright? Ako normally, I would love a target of more than 1:2. So kung ang aking risk ay 300 points here, alright? I should have at least 600 and so obviously, saktong-sakto more than 1.2 na yan, no? Actually, that is times 4 na, 1:4. That is a very, very good risk reward ratio. I can remove that. I can remove my trade na after that. I can close my trade. 1:4 risk reward ratio. Okay? So yun yung kagandahan ng Elliott wave. That is how we enter Elliott wave. Even on the 5-minute, you do exactly the same thing. Right? You do exactly the same thing on the 5-minute. If you have a trade like this, you always look for a possibility of a change or a movement for wave 2. So if you have wave 1, you try to plot the trend here. Okay? I'm plotting the market I'm plotting the leg. That's why I didn't use the very top. Kasi if I'm going to use the very top, you are going to plot the entire trend, no? You are not trying to plot the entire trend. You're trying to plot one of the waves. So ito yung ginamit ko, consistent, no? Very consistent. Nag-change siya dito, nag-break. So that is going to be wave 2. Pero ang wave 2 ko is more of a sideways moving market. That's fine. Alright? You're still going to see a break of structure. Nandito yung break. So that is wave 3. So actually from the top hanggang sa ilalim, that's wave 3 na. Alright? So from here, wave 3 up to this point here, you can still plot movement here. So yun yung break mo, break, okay? Break of structure going higher, that is your wave. That then you would consider this be what you call the structure wave 4. You can enter after that, no? Yung after the break. Again, supply and demand if you wanted to. Obviously make supply and demand dito. Ilakihan natin yan. Obvious na supply and demand is this area, right? Sakto, pasok, ilalim. Okay? As you can see, wave 3 is bigger. Well, it's not, at least it's not bigger as wave 1, pero hindi siya short. Solid lang yan. Okay? That's it. How do you, if you are trading wave 5, how do you close your trade? Well, you put a trend line. Pag nag-break, that's it. Stop. Why? Wave 5, sabi natin, is the last wave, and therefore there should be some sort of correction. There will be weakness in the market. It will move a little bit higher than it's supposed to, or maybe change direction already. So stop the trade. For me, it's not risky to trade wave 5, but it is more risky. It is riskier compared if you're trading wave 3 or wave 1 or wave 2 for that matter. All right. So you need to be very careful if you're trading wave 5. All right. So the guys, we are done with our Elliott Wave tutorial webinar. I hope you learned a lot and you can implement this in your trading. Okay. I tried to make it very simple, very easy to understand, but without watering down the concept behind how Elliott Wave, works, how you can execute it. If you have any questions, let me know sa chat. I'll keep it open for another 2 minutes. Type it in very quickly and I'll try to answer them. But if you do not have any questions, I hope you enjoyed our webinar for today. Okay? And I hope you would be able to use Elliott Wave in the future. Maraming salamat po and have a good week. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome. Welcome, welcome. Patrick, thank you. Mary, thank you. Psyche, thank you. Thank you, Kale. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to stop our chat anymore, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you, guys. Bye bye.